Hey friends, it's Pastor Mike from Fellowship Church here during Vacation Bible School Week at Fellowship, where we're celebrating True North and warming our hands by the fire a little bit. I have a question for you today, and that is, where did you get your name from? For most people, their name is one of the most personal things that's attached to them. If I asked you where you got your name from, you would probably say, well, my parents gave it to me. Maybe you like your name, maybe you don't. I've sure known a number of people over the years who preferred to be known by their middle name. Sometimes it took me years to realize it wasn't their first name. I know other people who prefer to be known by initials. Some people named after someone in their family who was very meaningful to me, you know, boys being named after grandpa or things like that. But have you ever thought about where you got your name as a Christian? That is the most common word we use to describe the followers of Jesus Christ. And here's a great trivia question for you. You're going to win some points someday on this one. The fact is, you were named as a Christian from the book of Acts. For quite some time in the early church, they didn't really have a specific name for the followers of Jesus. I guess they were just called the Way, and they were called the followers of Jesus and some other things. But in a city called Antioch, Acts tells us that the followers of Jesus were called Christians for the first time. That's a pretty important name because it means that they were named literally after Jesus Christ. And that name began to be the way by which many of the followers of Jesus in the early church was referred to. They were called Christians. Now, somebody could have come up with a different name for them, but they were literally named after Jesus Christ. Interestingly enough, Jesus never used that word himself, and that word isn't even found very often in the New Testament. Today, we use it as a pretty common way of referring to the church. We call ourselves Christians, and the world calls us Christians as well. Well, friends, have you ever thought about the risk that was involved for God in allowing us to be called Christians? Because, friends, you and I are literally named after Jesus. And when someone is carrying your name, it's sort of like they're carrying your reputation. It was a risk for Jesus to allow us to be called Christians, because every time someone uses the word Christians, it should be bringing to mind the word of Jesus. So Jesus allows us to be called by his name, and that's really not even a new thing. If you were with us this past Sunday at Fellowship, you know that one of the titles for God in both Old and New Testament is that God is referred to as the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Again, a phrase that is used in both Old Testament and New Testament. Jesus spoke it himself. Well, when God allows himself to be called the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, he's allowing himself to be referenced by people who were pretty worldly at times and who made a lot of mistakes. Abraham certainly had his faults, so did Isaac, and in the coming weeks at Fellowship, we're going to talk a lot about Jacob's faults. So why is it that God allows himself to be named literally by people here on earth? Well, because friends, God is willing to risk. He's willing to bargain a bit here. God is willing to allow himself to be known by you. And I'm just wondering how God's reputation is being upheld by you these days. What does your life say about God? Because by allowing us to be named after him, God is staking his reputation upon us, friends. How does your life reflect well back on God? And does God ever have days when he looks at one of us and says, oh boy, I don't think I should have given them my name. I think he has days like that for me. I sure hope he doesn't have days like that for you. But friends, God allows his name to be placed upon us. You are called Christians. May you bear that name well this coming week. Hope you have a wonderful week, friends. Look forward. Hope that you're planning on joining us here at Vacation Bible School. We are going to have a great week here. Hope you have a wonderful week as well. Take care. God bless. Bye-bye.